ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is a blustery 36 degrees on Cape Cod, Mass, November 17, 2025. You survived the weekend, and you're back for the Breakfast Bankroll Re-Entry Monday edition with good friend and colleague, Mr. Beam 'em Up, Scotty Webb, live from Tampa. Maybe he'll send some heat this way, but we'll get to a full recap of what we saw. NFL, NCAA, there's really no breaking news in baseball other than Seattle signs Naylor. But we'll get to all that. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. And of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wines. You guys know the drill. It is that time of season for parties, Thanksgiving, Christmas parties, etc., etc., etc. See Terry Smith on Facebook. Go follow him. Ask away all the questions, and then come on back to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, Scott?
Hey, man. It's Monday, and some NFL stuff, happened over the weekend, right? And I don't know that there was too much really shocking happened in college football. I mean, Alabama got beat, but it was just an interesting weekend. I thought it was good football for college football to watch. A lot of it was good. I think that the NFL was interesting in a sense that we had 4 quarterbacks get hurt in those games yesterday. Aaron Rodgers and Michael Penix and the quarterback for Carolina, those guys all got hurt. Now, some of them came in, the quarterback for the Chargers. Some of them came back in the game, but and then I'm just looking at some of the analysis of the breakdown of these NFL games, and I'm just going to tell you, if you turn the ball over, you lose, and that's exactly what the data points show. I thought the Tampa Bay played well in the cold. I mean, they don't ever play well in the cold, and I thought they did. I mean, obviously they got beat, but so anyway, I thought it was interesting. And then I'm starting to look at all kinds of projections and different things to see where, some of these games that are coming up, how important they are and stuff. Like, I think people are going to write off the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know that they're going to lose any more games the rest of the season based on their schedule. They're just going to win them all. Same with Buffalo. I mean, yeah, I know they play New England one more time, but they don't have anybody else to play on their schedule. So, don't be writing these teams off in terms of how good they are. It's because, anything can happen. We'll look at Cleveland how they played Baltimore yesterday. So anything can happen. But I think as you kind of start to sift through this stuff, I think it's gonna the biggest thing I see is future look is Chicago going to make the playoffs or Green Bay? That's one of the questions that I have because I don't know the answer to that question. That's where I think some of that's going to lie, and I think the AFC might already be situated, but so we'll see.
You know, I'm a big college guy, whether it's college football, college basketball. It's re-entry Monday, but a lot of things I want to discuss in the NFL, not for long, any given Sunday. And I think this is an intriguing year. As you just stated, weeks ago when Baltimore couldn't stop a nosebleed, whatever, we bought some shares of Baltimore to make the playoffs to win the division. They're just one game back. They got 2 games still with Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow knocking on the door. I want in. I want in. Aaron Rodgers. It could be Mason Rudolph this week. The Patriots right now sitting second. Denver owns the tiebreakers there. Right off the Chiefs, I dare you. And in some power ratings, I'll talk to some of our colleagues throughout the week. Before kickoff over this weekend, they still had Kansas City the number one team in their power rankings. But you said something to start the show. Now, we didn't talk. I was getting some stuff done back here, and we didn't talk. But your leadoff just fits my my scenario perfect, and I'm just trying to. Oh, don't tell me I did what I think I did. Hold on, Scotty.
Yeah. No
Okay.
worries.
No, I'm good. In the NFL, if you win the turnover battle, there's a real good possibility you're going to win the game. You just go check the turnovers, time of possession. You can kind of see without watching the game. Well, my number one take in the whole weekend, you just came and nailed. You guys sleeping on this Seattle team, and Jeff, well, they lost 4, not 3, not 2, not 1, 4 turnovers in LA, yet they were lining up for a field goal to win that game. Okay? Think about that for a second. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 turnovers. They did cover, by the way. We had them in the plus 2.5 in the contest. But Sam couldn't have played any worse. And Jigba, OMG, what there's leaps, but there's leaps and bounds. I'll put him up against anyone in the NFL as the best receiver right now in the NFL. That one-handed grab on the sideline. But my point, Scotty, is you nailed it. Turnovers. Yet here comes a Seattle team in LA and Darnold puking all over himself. Yet 61-yarder wide right. They could have walked off and won that game. 22. What was it? 20. Yeah, they would have won by 1, Scotty.
So I get breakdowns, and you can see it behind my left shoulder here. That and this is going to be the breakdown of that game. And this is going to be the breakdown of that game in a little different way than anybody really looks at this. This is, I'm a big EPA guy, right? So this is going to be EPA, extra points added. So and then percentage gains and percentage lost because of certain things. So if you look at this, the Seattle Seahawks were plus 10.32 in passing. So they did great in passing. So that means the defense obviously is going to be we got green and purple again. So we're used to green and purple. So green is good, right? Purple is bruising bad. So that's no good. So the Rams were bad on pass defense. The Rams defense against the run not so bad. The Seahawks couldn't run the ball. Pass defense for the Seahawks was good. And then when you start to when there's a big gap, the big gap is The Seattle Seahawks minus 23.46 EPA in turnovers. You're not going to win many games when you lose 25% of the extra points added because you turn the ball over. So that is an extreme number, but they won. They won pass offense. They won pass defense. They won special teams. They won a lot of stuff in that football game, even though they lost the game. So I think, but you can almost do this on any one of these games in the NFL. If you don't, turn the ball over, you're in pretty good shape because these teams are so close and they're competitive in a lot of different ways. So I think it's important to. You can't predict turnovers, though. You just can't. Although I will say one thing that you can look at, and this is something for Seahawks people, and I said this, several weeks ago, and you've been talking about it too. You need to get something on Seattle in your portfolio. They've been really good for a while now, and I don't think people were thinking they were that good. Sam Darnold's not a big game quarterback.
No.
He doesn't do well in the playoffs. He doesn't do well against good teams. He's one of these guys that he's just. I don't know if the moment's too big for him. I don't know if it's the play calling and different things put him in bad position. I don't know what it is. I felt that way last night when I watched the Detroit Lions play. Jeff Goff was fragile, and he was totally not the same confident Jeff Goff going against this defense. But then I started thinking, well, part of that is a coach's responsibility to help a quarterback with things that he can do, things that he if you can't get the ball out of your hand in a certain amount of time to complete a pass that's 15 yards downfield, but you can get a ball out of your hand to complete a pass that's 4 yards out, then throw the 4-yard passes. And I didn't think they were doing any of those things. So I thought there was a lot of things that that way you might be able to help with Sam Darnold, but you certainly didn't help Jeff Goff last night. And I think it showed. I thought Chris Collinsworth was great. I know people don't like him, but I thought he was great on his analytical work and talking about, hey, look what the Eagles offense, now that they got Jalen Hurts running a little bit, and they opened that. That was a key to the game. It's a 7-point game, and they won the game because he scrambled around and they got a touchdown. So I thought that some of this stuff that you see, and these guys get paid a lot of money to do well, and I didn't think that they put their quarterback in a good position last night.
Well, no, and don't forget last year, not you, but I'm telling everyone, Darnold started the year, I think 14-1. They lost a couple games late, and then he lost the first round of the playoffs. Darnold and Goff, what it was like back in the day with Tom Brady. How do you beat Tom Brady? You get him off of his spot. You need to get those happy feet moving. The same with Sam Darnold, the same with Jared Goff. Is the fact of the matter is you get them off their spot, you put pressure on them. So in the playoffs, Philly and the Rams are going to pose problems to these teams because they have a great front seven on the defensive side, and they can put pressure on you. Now, again, Dan Campbell, love him, I hate him. Again, the not taking the threes, the roll the dice, Riverboat Ron Rivera, we call, Ron there. And Dan, again, sometimes just keeps rolling the dice. I know the field goal and the 3 points sometimes don't seem like they mean anything. The missed extra point because Jameis Williamson gets a touchdown and he's got to act like a jerk and then move him back 15 yards. So again, dome team moving outside, cold weather, shit's going to happen. But the Lions definitely were in that game, could have won that game, but of course they don't. I'm going to tiptoe over to the AFC. Listen, I don't call teams frauds, fraudulent. It is what it is. Again, this Denver team was it put into a tough spot. Kansas City coming off a bye. Andy Reid's record coming off a bye. Must win for Kansas City. Offense never got clicking. The Denver defense is just phenomenal. And they now basically, I'm not saying Kansas City is on life support. They're 5-5. I have the current quote unquote chart for who's in, who's out currently. Right now, Denver, the number one seed in the AFC, Philly in the NFC. The Pats would face Jacksonville. Indy would face the Chargers. Pittsburgh would face Buffalo in the AFC. In the NFC, Seattle would travel to Tampa. Green Bay would host the Bears. I'm sorry, Green Bay would travel to Chicago, and San Fran would travel to the Rams. The AFC is going to play itself out. Ravens didn't look good at all again, but they won. The Chiefs, as you said, will be fine. Buffalo, track meet against your Bucks here. I think sometimes you got to give credit where credit is due. All right, I'm going to start with the Carolina Panthers. Okay, no one had on their bingo card them winning 6 games this year. Well, they've already won 6 games, guys. That's number one. Number two, we want to praise Mike Vrabel. We want to praise the culture. We want to praise what he's done for the New England Patriots. And I know how we're wired, Scotty. You just expect teams to start losing. Well, they'll lose this week, they'll lose it. Will you guys start giving some praise to Ben Johnson, please? Okay? Winning in Minnesota. If you've had a short memory, it took a miracle fourth quarter by J.J. McCarthy on that Monday night to win that game. In come the Bears, and the one thing Caleb doesn't do, he doesn't turn the ball over. And Ben Johnson has brought this culture to Chicago, and they're buying in, they're believing. They go into Minnesota and win. So I know there was a lot there, a mini sermon there. You can stay in the AFC, but sometimes people got to wake up and smell the coffee, Scotty.
Yeah, well, I know what the playoff picture looks like in terms of right now, right this very second. But there's places out here that I've got pulled up and projected standings throughout the rest of the season, and this is the best thing I can tell you. What I'm going to tell you is this is the most this is the a projection that basically says, well, if a team's going to lose, they're going to lose. This is not, well, they're going to win all these games. Like this is very conservative. So so the way this breaks down is this, and there's you're going to hear me say New England 12.7 wins. Wow, they can't get a 0.7 win, but the theory being is that they're probably going to be favored in that game and probably should win that game, but maybe not. So in the AFC, you got New England at 12.7 wins, Buffalo 11.5 wins, and then you got Baltimore 9.5 wins, Pittsburgh 9.3 wins. Then you have Indianapolis 11.6 wins, Jacksonville 10 wins, and then in the West you got Denver 12.5. And Kansas City 10, Chargers 9.7. So so in that theory of speaking, you're going to have New England, Baltimore, Indianapolis, and then Denver, and then the next best 3, which would be Kansas City at 10, Jacksonville at 10, Buffalo at 11.5. That kind of makes sense, but at the same time, that kind of makes sense. Who then is out? Well, that means you're going to have teams like Pittsburgh is out. Houston is out. The Chargers are out. Well, could they win some of those games and get in? Maybe, but this is real conservative on those numbers. So in the AFC, I kind of agree with what I just told you. We'll see how it all plays out in the end. Like, for example, in the NFC, you have projections of Philadelphia 12.7, Detroit 10.8, Tampa Bay 10.4, and the Rams 12.6. All right, so there's your division winner. So now the next three is going to be Seattle 11.7, San Francisco 10.7, and then Chicago's 9.9 and Green Bay's 9.8. That's the last one getting in. And that's where I'm saying some of these games are mattering, especially those two teams, because then nobody else even close. Dallas 6.4, Minnesota's at 7 wins, Carolina's at 7.98 wins, and Arizona's. So I think the NFC is down to whether Green Bay or Chicago gets in, and I think that's the way it's going to go. And I'm just looking. Here's the Chicago Bears' remaining schedule. They play home against Pittsburgh. Well, they can beat that team. It's going to be a tough game, but they can beat that game. Pittsburgh's been playing better defense. Then they go at the Eagles. I don't think they'll beat them. And then at the Packers. That's a big game. Then they play the Browns. They should beat them. And then they play the Packers again. So they play them twice. So that's going to be the deciding factor in this thing. And then they play the 49ers and then the Lions. This is not a good schedule for them to get through. And then if you look at it from the other side of it, from the perspective of Green Bay's got the Vikings, which they can beat the Vikings. And then they got the Lions. And then they've got the Bears. Well, then they got the Broncos. Then they got the Bears again. Then they got the Ravens and the Vikings. So that's not necessarily a great schedule for them either. So it ought to be interesting to see how that part of this plays out, which to me is going to be the most interesting thing. Because I think seating wise and stuff is kind of where they might change a little bit as they go along. I will tell you this: if the Eagles' defense plays like they did the last two weeks, they're really good. And then if they can get their offense kind of getting back to a point, and I thought Chris Collinsworth made a good point that everybody's been clamoring around about their offense, and they're not running Jalen Hurts. Well, maybe they've been doing that on purpose. They let him run just a little bit last night, let him open things up, because those games are important. Every game's important, but it's the same keeping things. They need him to be healthy, and maybe they open this all back up again, because I thought they've been real conservative on offense for all the whole year. So, and all you hear about the trauma with the wide receiver, A.J. Smith, and all that stuff. And what do you have, like 13 targets last night? I mean, come on. So I think, don't write off the Eagles as probably one of the best teams in football, because they are, and their defense is just unbelievably good. And I think there's some differences with that team. So, we talked about Jared Goff, and you talked about Sam Darnold as being guys that struggle in the big games. How many times does Jalen Hurts struggle in the big game? Not very often. How many times does your Kansas City quarterback Mahomes and Buffalo's quarterback that struggle? That's how they get to those big games. So, when you start to think about it, that's a differentiator between other teams is the mental makeup of your quarterback, your mental strength, toughness. And I think the Rams quarterback fits into that. He's not going to give in to anything. He's going to fight hard. So I think it's going to come down to, you might have to see the Rams go play the Eagles again in Philadelphia to see who goes for the NFC, right? I mean, it's going to be kind of like that. And then you got to figure out what's going to happen in the AFC and how these teams that don't necessarily win their division come through as wild cards, like Buffalo or Kansas City or some of these teams that have to kind of fight through it a little bit. But don't forget, how many of these teams actually win as wild cards and get in and do different things and are good just because they're good teams. Plus, it's all about who's hot, at the end. If you're running good, doing good, your defense is playing well, your quarterback is meshed to the offensive coordinator and stuff. kind of the way it looks. But that's my thoughts. I think these Green Bay, Detroit, or Green Bay, Chicago games are going to be the most important games the rest of the season. They're just anytime those two are playing, whether they're playing each other because they play each other twice, or any other opponents. Those are the biggest games on the board.
No, without a doubt. And you talk about the elite of the elite. You know, Philly makes a couple defensive trades, and they're coming in. They're stepping right in. And Philly with Jalen Hurts, he never gets too high, never too low. He just his whole demeanor on the field. You don't know if they're up 10 or down 20. And the fact of the matter is, if you're going to go through Philly this year, good luck. You talk about the Lions dome team, the Rams. We saw what happens when you head over there in January. So, going to be a tough out to dethrone the Super Bowl champs. Head over to the AFC. I mean, Buffalo benches Keon Coleman, and it's just next man up. Next thing you know, 6 touchdowns by Allen, 3 rushing, 3 passing. You talked about Mahomes. Yeah, they're 5-5. As you said, they'll probably end up, 12-5, 11-6. They're in.
So their schedule, by the way, for the rest of the way for Kansas City,
They play the Colts coming up, so I think that's a big game for. I think it's a big game for the Chiefs now. They got to win these games, but I think they can beat the Colts. It's at home,
and then they play the Cowboys. That's
whatever.
And then
They play the Texans, which if you don't have an offense, you're gonna have a hard time beating Kansas City.
so I think those are 3 wins.
Then they play the Chargers, which is a revenge game for them because they played them in the opening day
Brazil
or whatever.
And then they play the Titans, and then they got
one more against the Broncos, and then they got the Raiders. There's only one game I think they might lose in that whole thing. So I think they win all those games. So I think my opinion would be is that don't write off the Chiefs because they're going to win a lot of these football games down the stretch.
transition the headliner. Oklahoma rolls Tide, and Oklahoma traveled to Alabama. Texas traveled to Georgia, and honestly, I said one of these teams is going to win. They were both dogs, and one of them's going to lose. I thought Texas would put up a better fight. I'm just going to say this right now, and I know a lot of things can change, okay? But I don't know where the hype. I don't know. I'm not an NFL quarterback scout. I know it was in the genes. I'm talking about Arch Manning, of course. The guy throws like this, almost like Phillip Rivers, but he throws it even like more of a sidearm flip. He sucks. He's awful. Now, not that he can't change going into next year, because there's no way in holy hell he's coming out into the NFL next year. But they get rolled by Georgia. But Oklahoma, Mateer, a few more games back since the injury. Alabama was maybe due for a loss. They've still got 2 losses. They can't really lose anymore here because, funny, that 12th spot could be an SEC team with 3 losses here. But thoughts on what you saw in college, SEC, and any shockers that kind of surprised you, Scotty?
Yeah, I think so. There's. I'm not shocked at Oklahoma beating Alabama. I think I'm. I didn't expect them to beat Alabama. Alabama, I don't think is as good as what we're given. I don't want to agree with Brad Powers on this. But I will say that Alabama's not as good as their record, so to speak. If you've only lost 2 games, and a lot of times, you think, well, if you lost 2 games, you're going to be really, really good football team. Well, they don't blow teams out, and they had to come back from behind to beat South Carolina in the end. And, their cover margin is extremely small. But I think that's making them a tougher team. I think that those things help, mental makeup of Alabama. I was surprised at Oklahoma in a sense that they went to Alabama and did that there. I think Georgia's a team coming on. I think Georgia's defense is playing a lot better than, especially at the beginning. If you remember, they were in 40 to 40 games against like Tennessee and stuff. So, I think Georgia's coming on. I think I think they're probably the best team in the SEC is Georgia. I think
If I look at the standings in the SEC, we're looking at.
here's a thought. I think Texas A&M is fraudulent as hell. I don't think Texas A&M is any good in the SEC. Go ahead.
No, and every week, every guest I bring on says the exact same thing. Every week. Now, I'm not saying they're elite, okay? But we have to give credit where credit is due. 30-3 at halftime. Game's over. Game's over. Hey, our undefeated season's over. Not so fast. Come all the way back, 31-30 win. And I get it, okay? Because I will say this right now. We've been saying Ohio State all year. They're the elite of the elite. Their offense is only going to get better, okay? But again, after this past weekend, and I know people want to keep waiting and saying the shoe's going to fall. I'm not saying Indiana is Ohio State, but I'm just going to say if you want to say Ohio State is one, and then there's a gap from Indiana and the rest of the field right now still in college football.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think that the reality becomes is the Big Ten has three really good football teams, and I'm including Oregon in that discussion. I mean, I know they've been beaten, but my opinion basically is that Georgia belongs in some of those conversations, but Alabama does not. In the elite of the elites, right? And
if you look at that, you got
what do you do with Ole Miss? All they do is go out and win games, and I don't think they have an elite defense. So I think they're going to have to figure out ways to do certain things against certain opponents that they might play. So I think that's kind of a weird spot for them.
but if you look at these games, like Texas A&M, their schedule, where's their schedule there? Oh, shit. So they played UTSA, Utah State. They got that 41-41 over Notre Dame. Then they played Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina. They play Samford this week, and they end with Texas. They're liable to lose against Texas, by the way. So having said that, they didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play Alabama. They didn't play Georgia. They didn't play those teams, and the other teams have all played those teams. So they've kind of got a cakewalk through, and that's whatever. It's just the scheduling way it works, but their record doesn't indicate how really good they are, because they're really not as good as those other teams. So I think what will end up happening is they're going to beat Samford. I don't know what they're going to do against Texas, and then if they beat, I think if they've got one loss, and where is the SEC? I go back to it. So the SEC. So if they have one loss in conference, and we'll just say it's to Texas. Texas already has two losses. Alabama has one loss. Ole Miss has one loss, and Georgia has one loss. And if you have 4 one-loss teams, I don't know what the playoff whatever is to get them through. Georgia's not going to lose to any of the rest of the games. I think they play some pancake this week, and then they play Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is Georgia Tech. They're not a bad football team this year, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Georgia. So I think Georgia wins those games, and so I think that puts Georgia in the playoff, not playoff, but the SEC title game, I'm assuming. Ole Miss, I think, who did Ole Miss lose to? Didn't Ole Miss lose to Georgia? Who did they lose to? Yeah. Ole Miss lost to Georgia. That was the game. So I think that's obviously going to be a tiebreaker differentiator for Georgia in that one. And then if Alabama's got one loss, and their one loss is they got 2 losses, but one loss in the thing is Oklahoma, and 2 losses on the season. I think that Georgia is probably going to be Georgia, and then they play like say Texas A&M. And if Georgia played Texas A&M, I think Georgia would be a touchdown favorite at least, and so I think they would beat them. So when it comes to the SEC, I think Georgia is like right there at the top. So that leads me to say this: that I think you got to watch what's going on in Ohio State right now. Carnell Tate's hurt, the wide receiver. He didn't play this week, and he didn't play the week before. And Jeremiah Smith got hurt. He played like the first quarter or something in the game this week against UCLA. And then they took him out, and then you see him kind of walking around like he can't hardly walk and move. So I don't know what's going on with those 2 wide receivers, but for Ohio State to be as dominant as Ohio State can be, they need those 2 guys. Now they play Rutgers, and they're 30-some point favorites, and then they're going to play Michigan, and they'll be 2 touchdown favorites against Michigan, or at least 10 to 10 points to 2 touchdowns against Michigan. And Michigan's showing nothing on offense to be able to put up points to even have anything to do with Ohio State. And I think they're going to see a much different Ohio State team than they've seen in the last several years. So anyway, I think Ohio State is going to be in the Big Ten final, right? So, and then that's going to put them against Indiana. So I think you're going to see Ohio State against Indiana. And if you go look at the numbers, live numbers on that game, I think it opened at 3. I think it's 3.5, 4 now. Ohio State, So, and if you watch Indiana play, they're not a bad football team by any stretch. Don't get me wrong, and they got a good quarterback and all of that stuff, but they're just not explosive as Ohio State. So I think that's some of that where you look at it and go, holy shit, this, it's just. But can Indiana play against a team like Georgia? Absolutely, I think they can. Right. So I look at that, and then on the other side, I'm interested in this game this week. There's not very many games, to be honest, this week that are super fun. But Oregon USC is a pretty good game this week, and they obviously play each other. And I want to see what Oregon looks like against a team like USC, a team that's got good offense. Because Oregon struggled against some of these teams in the Big Ten. Obviously, this isn't the Big Ten, but I mean it's not really quote Big Ten teams. So we'll see how that looks. Because is Oregon? Yeah, they're like ranked 8th or 9th or whatever, but they're not really 8th or 9th. They're better than 8th or 9th. So the top 3 teams in the Big Ten are really good. I think Texas Tech is another team that they lost once, but I think Texas Tech is dominant. Now they don't play a lot of good teams. They played Utah as a big team that they had to beat, and they destroyed Utah, and it was in Utah. So I think Texas Tech is a team that can play with some of those big boy teams. So I think when you start talking about the NCAA, it's going to be interesting to see where they kind of fall into this, because don't look now, but Miami's kind of gaining steam, right? The Hurricane, they lost 2 games, but now they're beating teams by 30, 40 points again. And then they're playing another team this week that they should beat bad. So Miami should keep coming up. BYU's a team everybody writes off every single week, and all they do is go out and win. And every week they do well, but they're not an elite team. But they could make the playoff, and Notre Dame is, I think, a good football team. So that's the kind of the way I would see things is you got Ohio State, I think you got Indiana, I think you got to put Georgia up there somewhere. I think Oregon's got to go up in there somewhere. I think Texas Tech's got to go in there somewhere, and then you can start kind of fiddling around with what you want to do with where things go. And the other thing I think that happened this weekend, South Florida got beat. So as South Florida loses, that opens the door for the what is it, the Power 5 group, and I've seen 2 different projections now saying that puts Tulane in, and then the other one saying, hey, that puts North Texas in. Well,
those two teams, neither one of those two teams are going to play against any of these other 11 schools and have any kind of success against those teams. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of goes out. But of anything, you've got the NFL that's going to have their playoffs and the brackets and all that stuff. These college football brackets are going to be important for who gets home field in some of those spots before they get to the bowl game part of it, and where their seeding lies to see, like if Oregon's got to go through a certain team and then they got to go play Ohio State or something. Whereas they might be better than Texas A&M, who might be a 3 seed or something. I think some of that's where I would look at where that part of it goes. There's not very many college football games left. There might be 2 for each team or 1 for each team in some cases, and then you've got the bowl championships that are going to matter in a lot of cases. Ohio State's going to play Indiana. That'll be fun. So I think as those come down, that's going to be important. You got MAC football games this week that are going to help determine who wins the MAC conference. Not that matters to what we're talking about for national championships and stuff, but to who's going to get good qualified bowl games. I was looking at bowl games to see who's going to play who and how it's all bracketed out, and how those matchups kind of look. And it's going to be. Some of them were kind of boring, but others were really exciting to see what it looks like. And that's obviously not way too early. It's too early to get settled in on that stuff because stuff happens in these games to know who's going to play, like in the Gasparilla Bowl or whatever. But as it all plays out, that's what we're here for, right? I mean, those are the fun games. And they're not as fun as they used to be. Here's my rant about the college kids that, opt out and don't want to play in the bowl game because they're going to go play and be superstars in the NFL and then don't get drafted and stuff like that. So maybe the no money helps those kids. Maybe those kids are like, shit, I made millions of dollars already. I'll play in this game. The NFL's going to pay me less. I'll play. Maybe that's how that'll work out. I don't know. So anyway, I think some of that. Well, we just saw. I don't know if you saw, but the NC State quarterback left the school. He's gone. He's like, I'm going to train. I'm not going to play anymore. I'm going to prepare for the NFL draft. What? C.J. Bailey, you're going to prepare for the NFL draft? You might get drafted in the 4th round. You may not even get drafted. Now, he's not a bad quarterback, but he's not an NFL go start kind of guy. So I don't know what these kids are drinking and what makes them think certain things, but those are just all things you got to watch because, man, it matters. It matters to who's going to be playing, who's hurt, who's not hurt, what the weather conditions are. Oh, by the way, so my numbers from last week, I was 4-3 in college football, and in pro football, I was 3-2. So it wasn't the greatest thing, but hey, win is winning. I'll take it. My record for college football right now, let me pull it up, is where is it? There it is. So I'm 45-29-1. I'm good with that number. And in the NFL, let's go to the NFL and let's go to there. I am 15-9. So I wasn't playing the NFL there for a little while, but now I'm playing a little bit more. I got more data to run and different things to look at. So overall, I'm having a good football season. I'm happy with the outcome so far. Be talking some college basketball soon. Haven't got there yet, just because the heart thing and some other stuff. I quit working on some data points and stuff, but stuff's coming, and we'll be able to work through the winter months, and even though I don't like basketball, I will bet it because obviously, shit, that's what I do. I make bets and play poker. So I haven't played poker, Jeff, in I think 2 weeks now because of my heart and stuff. So I'm kind of itching to go get on the table. I'm going to go this week. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to be today or not, but I'm going to go play. So I'm excited about all that.
ECSI VIP's 5-0 sweep on Saturday, Scott. Team totals, Navy team total over 24.5 against South Florida. We were on Navy. They not only fly over that, they win the game outright. This was kind of a payback spot because they got us last week. And Texas Tech kicked 5 field goals last week, and I'm like, nah, they're going to turn them into touchdowns. We had Texas Tech team total over 19.5 first half, over 35.5 for the full game. They scored 38 in the first half, so we got there early there. UNC team total under 16.5, we get there. The funny thing is, right before the half, they got 1st and 20 from their own 20, basically with less than 30 seconds left. I'm like, all right, we're going to get to half. I think they only gave up 6 points, I think it was. And all of a sudden I look, and I was coming back from the BC game. The damn kid kicks a 57-yard field goal to get to 9 at half. And I'm like, my NFL guys can't do that. And here's a college kid, but they stay under the 16.5. And then the nightcap, Utah team total over 34.5 against Baylor. They fly through that one. So we had a great weekend overall. 8-2 over the weekend. Envelope Monday today. I'm going to circle back quickly to college for 2 things. Tough week this week because the following week, Thanksgiving weekend, is obviously always the rivalry week. You talked about Texas A&M, Georgia Tech. I want to add 2 things here. That Texas Tech team has an elite, I'm using the word elite defense. We've always known Texas Tech for the air raid, their offense, Patrick Mahomes, the run and gun, first one to 50 wins. No, they have an elite defense, number 1. Number 2, I'm going to say something that people are just going to roll their eyes, okay? But it's rivalry week. We saw it happen last year. And the Big Ten could kick the SEC right in the jimmies. And what I'm going to say right now, everyone's going to say no chance in hell. But I'm just going to say it anyways. Michigan cheats. They beat Ohio State. If I'm not mistaken, it's at Michigan this year. If they beat them, Michigan's going to get in. They got 2 losses, Scotty. And I know they're not Ohio State caliber. I know they're not Georgia caliber. My point is, Ohio State lost this in that same spot last year. What'd they do? They didn't make the Big Ten final championship game, but they went on and won the national championship. The light bulb went on. So steal a bid from the SEC. Michigan shocks the world. They get in, Scotty. And then the SEC sitting there crying in their Cheerios.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting that would be an interesting thing, I think, I would also say this. Michigan's got to win this week. They play Maryland, and that's at Maryland. And Maryland's one of those teams that they have a young quarterback. The quarterback's good, but he's also bad, if that makes sense. He's young, so he makes a lot of mistakes. But their defense is pretty good in Maryland. Their offense isn't that good. And so if you have 2 offenses that aren't that good, Michigan's running backs are all hurt. Their quarterback is good but young, right? So this could be a pretty close, efficient type game where Maryland hangs around and all of a sudden some goofy turnover happens, or you got a penalty, or I don't like the head coach for Michigan, Sharon Moore, whatever his name is. I don't like that guy. I don't think he makes great quality decisions. So I'm not saying Maryland's does either, but I'm just saying but that gives you potential for I haven't done any of these games or anything yet. So I'm thinking, hey, Maryland plus 13.5. That's that in my head. And just going through that sounds like too many points. So anyway, my thought being is if it's too many points at 13.5, they might actually win the game. So Michigan then looking ahead maybe to Ohio State.
All of that stuff could be in play in that spot. So I do agree, though, what you're saying. Hey, if Michigan won the game against Ohio State, that's a great quality win for them, because I don't really think they have any great quality wins. So the games that, quote, quality win wise, they lost. So I think when it comes to, because they got beat by Oklahoma, and I don't remember who else they beat them,
I
but
think it was Oregon, right?
yeah, Oregon. Yeah, so they got beat. Those are quality wins that would have mattered. So I think this is a spot where it's not a good spot for them because they're actually on the road to play them too. So we'll see how that plays out. And I say that, and then they might go win by 30. So who knows? So I haven't done the game. I haven't done any of that stuff. Games on Paper was up this morning. I just haven't had a chance to go through it. I was looking at some of this other stuff to get ready for this show today. So as things play out and things go on, I would caution everyone this week to looking at these games tomorrow night. College football is tomorrow. The MAC's tomorrow. You got Ohio favored by 33 points tomorrow against UMass. And I'll get it. UMass is terrible, but 33 points. That doesn't mean I'm going to go tell you to go bet UMass either. It just means you just bypass the game. Who cares? It means nothing. Ohio's not in the playoff run anymore. Akron plays Bowling Green, two teams that don't matter either. And Western Michigan's an important game. Western Michigan's leading the MAC. They have to win this game, and they play that game at Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois is terrible. So, it's -6.5 or -6 for Western Michigan. I think the drawback here in that particular spot is Western Michigan's got a really good defense. Their offense is like 110th, but Northern Illinois' defense is like 110th. So, it's like Patsy Cake against Patsy Cake there. So just be careful. Like some of these games, they don't matter. So when they don't matter in terms of who wins and who loses, they play like that. And this is the MAC, and that's, crazy stuff happens there. Friday, you get into the bigger schools playing. Florida State plays at NC State. I don't know that this line makes any sense. The game opened Florida State -5. It's now -4.5. And NC State's not going to have their quarterback. That doesn't make sense to me. And I get it. It's on the road, and Florida State hasn't played well on the road. But still, Florida State's a much better team than I think -4.5 on the road against a backup quarterback. Anyway, and then Hawaii plays at UNLV. Those are the best two Friday games. Hawaii's off a big win. They beat Boise State, or they not Boise State. They beat whoever they beat. San Diego State. They beat San Diego State on the island. Now they come off the island and have to go play UNLV. So I think that's a spot where probably UNLV is going to be good, and look at that one particularly. And then you get into the Saturday game. So I don't know how interested I am in any of these games. And then the Thursday NFL game, that was some kind of joke too, wasn't it? What's the Thursday NFL game? Was that the Thursday night? It's the Jets in New England. The Jets, what the hell?
That was last week. Last week.
Whoops. I got the wrong week. There we go. Here's the right week. Buffalo and Houston. Okay, well, maybe that's a game we can watch, but Buffalo's minus. Says the look ahead line was 2.5. They opened 3.5. And Stroud's not been playing, and Miles Davis or whatever his name is has been the quarterback. And you can say what you want to about how good the defense is for Houston, because it's good, but those guys wear out and they get wore down because the offense puts them in bad spots. And Buffalo needs to win these games, and I think they will. So I'm not sure that that's a great game. It might be a good betting spot. I haven't done anything with that yet either. So I think this, up to Saturday, Sunday, it's kind of boring week in terms of football. And then, you've got sort of boring games on Saturday. There'll be game bettable spots. And then Sunday, you've got a couple spots that are important. Indianapolis plays Kansas City. You've got Pittsburgh and Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay. Anytime Green Bay and Chicago play, those are important games. Tampa Bay plays at the Rams. So that's two rough spots for Tampa. And then Carolina plays on Monday night against San Francisco. So, I think I only say that because Carolina is not that far behind Tampa Bay, but I think that'll change as Tampa Bay plays these games and then play all their easy guys. So, because they'll play Atlanta, they'll play Carolina, they'll play New Orleans the rest of the way, and they'll beat all those teams. So I think as it kind of goes and plays out here, this might not be the best weekend of football. And then, I was looking at the games for Thanksgiving. Green Bay, Detroit, that'd be pretty decent. And then what do you got? Kansas City, Dallas. I don't know if that'd be great, but it'll probably be good just because it's Thanksgiving Day, And then Cincinnati, Baltimore. I don't know. Isn't that the game that Joe Burrow is supposed to be coming back in that particular spot? I don't think
he wants to come back, but I'm just saying they'd be smart to give him another 10 days, but it might be too late by then. Who's Cincinnati got this week?
Cincinnati.
Oh, they're New England. They got New England, and Jamar Chase could get suspended for that game for spitting on Ramsey yesterday. So, that could be a shitstorm there, Scotty.
And then they got the Black Friday game, which is Chicago at Philadelphia. So again, that'll be must watch because of Chicago game. And it's just so then the Monday night game that week is the Giants go to New England, and then Friday is Denver and Washington. Like, I mean, I get it; these are supposed to be good games, but I don't know. It's anything can happen in these games. Anything happens in the NFL. Anything happens in college. But I'm going to be more excited for the college football games that are going to probably happen, where you have the rivalry week games, and then right after that you're going to have things set up for the championships of their conferences, and then all of a sudden you got the big influx of the bowl games and trying to figure out who's playing who, and what the lines are and all that stuff, and trying to figure out who's playing in those games for the college kids, and then the NFL playoff push, and then football's over, and then we're talking about baseball.
Well, we're going to tomorrow. Myself and Scotty will be back at around 9:15. We'll break down Dallas at Vegas tonight. Opened at 3.5.
I did make a bet on that game. I bet Dallas tonight -3. I don't know if you can still get -3, but I bet him -3. I don't think they have a problem at 3.5 either.
You can get -3, -20 right now at the Circa. Everyone else is 3.5 with a 50.5 there. Again, both defenses not good. Ashton Genty, not the guy that we thought he would at least be. The Pete Carroll experience hasn't worked there. Here's a Dallas team, again, that can score with the best of them, but has a trouble
the other
stopping the
thing is,
nosebleed.
don't forget that, they can't. Their defense is terrible, but the Raiders' defense is just as bad. And then secondly, Dallas made some deals right at the deadline to get a couple of defensive players. So they're trying to add some support to the defense. So we'll see what that looks like. So, and just think about it this way. Would you rather bet on Dak Prescott and the two wide receivers that he has, or would you rather bet on Geno Smith and Brock Bowers? I'm not betting on Geno Smith at all. So how many times have the Raiders scored 20 points in the NFL football game this year? I would say once, maybe. So if you can't score 20 points, and I get it that they ought to be able to score 20 points against Dallas, but the reality is Dallas can score 40. So if Dallas goes out there, I just think this is going to be a whitewash. Dallas just kills them.
Me and Scotty back tomorrow, 9:15. We'll have the MAC action. We'll do a recap of Dallas at the Vegas. At 10:30, Andrew McGinnis will be here to talk some Grey Cup as Saskatchewan beats Montreal last night to win the Grey Cup. We'll talk some NHL, of course, with him there. Week full of fun here at ECSI. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching and listening. Hope PB had a great weekend. Mr. Lucky as well. Everyone else who hasn't already, jump on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investor. Subscribe, it's free. And then come on back to X. Come follow myself at EC Sports Investor. And, of course, Scotty at Webby20MLB. Guys, back east. Hey, the temperature went up 2 degrees since we started the show. We're up to 38 degrees right now on Cape Cod. Bundle up, guys, and stay tuned.